We've talked many times on this show about how when there's a space in medicine where the overarching mentality is, well, they're doing a good thing, it's very easy to forget that there are always going to be bad players.
This man was my mother's doctor. He was not her donor.
He did a bad thing to all of us. My kids are the ones that are hurt the most. He needs to be held accountable.
Margot, Adam mentioned earlier that he believes that acts like these should be considered a form of sexual assault. And certainly you did not consent to this person being the biological father of your daughter. So do you agree with Adam? Do you think that this is how we should be talking about this?
Absolutely. Eve describes it as medical rape, and I do believe that. It was without my knowledge or consent. I never agreed to use his sperm.
We now know Klein used his own sample and squirted it into my mom. In the 70s and 80s, Klein deceived dozens of patients that way. He used his own sperm to impregnate them. He has more than 60 biological children and counting. Heather found out in 2017 she's one of them. I went through an identity crisis. I couldn't look in the mirror and think about, where did my eyes come from? Where did my hair color come from? I didn't even want to think about any of that.
I don't call Dr. Klein my biological father. I call him the doctor that violated my parents.
He betrayed my mom and my dad's trust and sexually assaulted my mom.
My mom considers this a form of rape.
You wake up every day and you wonder, am I a monster like him, even though you know you're not?
And I have to be the one to tell them about their mom who was, assaulted in this, and that they are the product of that. And it's very traumatic. As you know, there was a new one that just popped up 2 months ago. And each person internalizes this, very differently. And, my two half-brothers are head in the sand. This is too much. They can't handle it. And then the half-sister right now, she's struggling with this. It's a very toxic secret.
I was horrified. It's such an intrusive, intimate kind of thing because it's my very DNA. It's very integrated into who I am, and yet there's nothing I can do about it. And so to imagine someone who had done this thing had sort of inserted himself into my life and that I had this connection with him was pretty horrifying to me.
And a key part of that is, I think, the emotional distress damages that you mentioned. It's hard to imagine an act that would unsettle someone's personal identity more than learning that they were the victims of fertility fraud.
The American Society for Reproductive Medicine had put guidelines in place saying that you could only use frozen sperm because the frozen sperm had to be on a 6-month quarantine. So now we have a doctor who's in an OR who is not medically screened. And these people, my mother, they are thinking that they are getting these medically screened donors and they are being responsible. And that is not the case. So there's also an element of it being incredibly negligent.